Hi guys, it's just something I was looking back at. This is last month's little programming exercise, and it was the slightly more complicated programming exercise compared to just sort of printing hello world on the screen. Okay, so I'll show you what it does. Well, here we go. I'll just run it again now. Basically all it does is it generates a pseudo-random 1,000 sets of planet names and descriptions. So the idea is planet 0934 is called Qualak, and it's a mostly unfair republic. That's the government type, and the planet description is a planet long thought lost. Qualak is sometimes avoided due to its reputation for theatrical Qualkian electrically operated robots. And the inspiration of this, of course, is the 1980s game Elite, which used this technique to save on storage mostly and generate practically infinite numbers of planetary descriptions. And I'll just show you the code. You can download this code if you want to have a fiddle around with it, although please bear in mind that I'm a sort of not exactly a beginner programmer, but all my skills are way out of date, and I'm a beginner programmer when it comes to learning any sort of modern computer language, and that was the whole point behind doing things like this. But you can see how it works. It just takes these fragments of planet names and it combines those pseudo-randomly, and then it takes all these fragments of planetary description. So it can start with the planet, or the delightful destination, or a popular tourist spot, or a wretched hive of scum and villainy, or a planet long thought lost, or the often overlooked. And every time you generate, say, planet number 150, because it's pseudo-random, it'll always come back the same. So it's procedural generation like Minecraft, but this is obviously much more simple. But back in the 1980s, this was incredible. You know, when David Braben and Ian Bell came up with this method, largely to save memory. So, I mean, it can easily generate 1,000 planets. You know, 1,000 planetary names and planetary descriptions, and you can see the actual storage for the data is very small. So that's one reason that you use procedural generation. It saves on storage, it saves on resources. The way the mathematics of it works is, I didn't realize this, but if you use a method for pseudo random generation, and say use something like this where you just take huge numbers and you multiply them together and then divide them and then add something to them just to make them as random as possible, there's only some numbers that actually work over a long period, as it's called. So in other words, most things that you choose start to repeat themselves fairly early on. You wouldn't think so if you're operating with absolutely huge numbers at great precision. But that's the method that's used. It's not quite the same as the way Elite did it, because Elite used operations on bits, and it also used a technique of adding two numbers together. So you add 1 and 1 together, and that gives you 2. So then you add 1 and 3 together, and that gives you 4. And then you add 3 and 4 together, which gives you 7, and so on. And you just generate a huge list of seemingly random numbers. But I decided not to do it quite like Elite for a number of reasons. But these are the numbers that apparently work and then don't repeat themselves, or don't repeat themselves very often. They have what you call a long period. And but this bit here seems fairly innocuous, but this was the breakthrough for me, because rather than using variables it uses a class, and it uses an object, an instance of an object, and that's the primary difference between the old school programming that I learnt back in the 90s and modern programming now, in that it's object orientated. So you have this object here, and then you just put the data into it, and the main loop here that goes round 1,000 times. Before it goes round 1,000 times, it just generates a new instance of this object and stores the data in there, so you can reference it quite conveniently. So the planet number is something inside the object planet data, so you reference it as planet data.planet number, and then there's planet data.planet description. And I think that's fairly self-explanatory how it works. And so that was the breakthrough for me, just getting my head round it, understanding it, you know, having been brought up in a completely different programming tradition. And other than that, it's quite a simple program, and it's there. There's a link to it in the description if you fancy a go with it, you know, if you're learning C#. Although bear in mind, I'm not an expert C# programmer, certainly not yet. I'm a bit of a beginner with C#, but that is that. Okay.